All right, great. Welcome everybody to our July 21st, 2026 full design review board meeting. I call us to order. We have 8 out of our 9 members, which is quorum. I do not have any opening remarks. And I'm looking to approve tonight's agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Emily. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mike B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? All right, motion passes. Staff, LaShonda, do we have some meeting minutes to approve?
Yes, we have June 16th, June 23rd, July 7th, and July 14th.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve June 16th, June 23rd, July 7th, and July 14th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Emily. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Ooh, Mike B just beat out Gazday. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, motion passes. I'm seeing public hearing. What's this on my agenda? Public hearing, design review guidance, revisions, additions.
So with any new additions or revisions to the design guidelines, the resolution requires that the DRB host a public hearing for comment. We publicize the opportunity for public hearing in the RA News, and I don't know if there's anyone here that would like to make a member comment as it relates to the design guidelines that are on your agenda today.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for any members here tonight who would like a comment on the design review guideline updates that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Nobody? All right. Now I'm looking for general member comments for anything else that's not pertaining to tonight. It's also on my agenda. I'm also echoing. I'm not sure why. Am I too close to the mic, maybe?
Me on the problem.
Okay. All right. With all that out of the way, we can roll into item G, 2359 Tumbletree Way. Are the applicants here? I see them. Come on up to those 4 seats there. Obviously, welcome back. I know even I think Emily and I did a site visit on this one. So welcome. Happy summer. Hot. And I guess, Richard, are you going to present or? Yes. Okay. Well, who's driving? LaShonda, are you driving? Oh, Patrick's driving over there. So if you need to do anything, tell Patrick and he will drive where you want to go. And if you want to pass anything out, feel free to pass it out and we'll take a look. Okay. Take it away.
Okay. It's great to see all of you here live. This is, thank you. After being live on your board for 21 years, it's nice to see you back. I applaud Cam getting this to happen. And I've been waiting a long time. So anyway, we were back here in May. There were a whole bunch of things, suggestions and considerations and concerns. We went through the list of concerns and there were some architectural, some landscaping. There were a bunch of other things we looked at, or you looked at. A couple of things I will just hand out that may not have made it, I think, and these are the most illustrative of what we want to show you guys. The I only made 3 copies, but you can pass around. These are some other just illustrations of stuff. There they are. Where are they gone? And there's 2 different things. Okay. I guess the best way, since we're using your screens, is if you can go up to, I guess it was our sheet.
We had a link from the drive. Maybe that's
A202. A202. A lot of the concern or suggestions, I should say, not concerns, but were to help with the presentation and elevations of the building, the house. So on A202, there you go, it's up on the screen. What we came back with were some suggestions that we add a break in the center of the building with a different color. We're now doing vertical siding on all the dark areas and horizontal siding on the in the center. There's the bench next to the door that will be done. I can't remember the name. It's on the thing I just sent to you guys. We requested to line up the windows on the lower elevation on the right-hand side. We lined up all the windows top and bottom. On the upper elevation, we were asked to make the windows on either side more like the windows that were on the front, which is a very thin mullion running across, so it looks more like the ones on the front. And then on A203, I guess there wasn't a whole lot of stuff we changed there. That was staying the same. The garage door, all that stayed the same. I gave you a photograph of there was some concerns about how the gutter on the rear of the building was going to work. So I just gave you guys some photographs of how it's going to look. This wasn't clear in the drawings how that was going to look. So that's that detail that we just handed out to you. We're going to try to keep all the windows with the siding as close to the windows as we can get. And Hardy Plank has it's a little, I'll call it a J-bead. It's not really a J-bead. That's a drywall term, but it's a little hook that catches the edge of the siding when it comes up next to the window. So we're not going to have trim around the window. It'll be right. The windows will be circled with this little J-bead so that there's no trim. We just thought that was a slightly more contemporary suggestion. Isn't it great to have paper? This is, I think all of the, on A300 are all the 3D suggestions or model drawings, and it's pretty much like what you just saw in the elevations. But if you had any questions about any of that, we're doing there's a sample in the handout I just gave you. I think it's also in the drawings here for the railings we're using on the rear. On the bottom left-hand corner is the rear. There's the small deck there with a steel pipe running up through it that's painted black to match everything else. All the outside we'll get to in the landscaping presentation. There were a lot of questions about that. But most of the questions you all asked, some of it was a little confusing last time where we had some lighting on the architecture and some lighting on the landscaping. It's now just all on the landscaping. So we wanted to clarify that so no one's confused. There are two outside lights that we're suggesting. Still too close.
Yeah, okay. Sensitive.
I think it's here, right? Okay, we're good. They're both. Yeah, leave that one off. Yeah, you leave that one on. It's fine. But other than that, everything else, all the things I've just discussed were all the issues that were raised the last time we were here, and I think we've addressed them all. And then I'll hand it over to Clarence and Ann to discuss any questions you all might have about the landscaping. You can put up the landscaping plan. There are a whole bunch of sheets of that. I've got hard copies here.
Thank you, everyone. You sent us 11 questions that we have answered. Are there any in specific that you want to ask us, or do you want us to go through each one of them?
You probably don't need to go through each one. I have a question. I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe Norm can help answer it. I'm still confused and I'm not trying to nitpick. The siding, what is the siding material?
Yeah.
I know it says vertical hardy board. Is it their Sierra 8? Is it gonna be one of their architectural element siding? Like which one is it? Is all I'm trying to figure out for the record.
I think that when you and I met, I think we discussed doing the architectural one, and I think we looked into doing the nickel gap, between.
Mhm.
And we still, you know, I think we could do that. It was, as you and I both were talking about, it is like double the price, so that's.
Well, right, and I mean, I think the Sierra 8 can be successful, it still
Right.
get what you guys want. Obviously, it's a sheet product, but I know I just did it on a recent house, so I know it's possible. I know it still can look good. I think you just gotta make sure when you're butting the joints that we figure out how that flashing looks and make sure you're doing black flashing and all that stuff, just so it blends in, but that's the only thing, that's the only question that I still was having. I see that it's vertical hardy, but they just have a bunch of different types, so I'm just trying to clarify exactly what it was.
And we have like a guy that the Hardy rep that comes out to our jobs and, you know, he'll instruct us on that stuff, like we were talking about flashing.
Yeah.
I think that,
I mean, what is nice about the nickel gap one is you're gonna get a little bit more of that shadow, which.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's worth the extra cost is really, you know, up to you. I think either is successful, so
Okay.
that's the only question that I had, but I don't know, from line item by line item, I don't know if anyone wants to have any specific to those requests that we had. If you guys felt like anything wasn't addressed, and you wanna speak up, feel free to raise your hand and let me know. If not, you guys could just present maybe the updated landscape plan, because I think that would be,
Sure.
it's been nicely done. We've moved the pool equipment, the grading is updated and it
Yes.
looks nice. So
Yeah.
to me, if you just walk us through that instead of question by question, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, so on the one that you just had, which was L60, that gives you the full landscaping plan. You can see the planters are on there. You'll see in specific details. I know it's written in really small letters. You can see the different plants on there. Emily and I had a really, really nice conversation about what we were doing. One thing that I wanted to highlight was the Corten steel that's placed on there to soften the look of the house. In the landscape plan, it's the two big planters by the entryway. And then underneath by the entryway on the left side along the house, there will be three Corten steel planters to soften the look. One of the things that we talked about in the first meeting was to try to soften the look of the house. And so from the first meeting, we have also changed the stairs and the entryway into the house to soften it. And we will be planting plants all along the side that will soften it. So when you're walking on the road, you can't really see the stonework. You'll be able to see all the greenery. So it will soften the whole look along the side of the house.
The elevation, I think we were gonna point out that the elevation for the pool was sort of an issue in terms of where that edge of the pool would sort of what height that would be and what would be on the outside of that. So that is actually the baseline between the site plan and the grading plan with AMA engineers and with our landscape architect. There was just a sort of a difference in the sort of benchmark that they were at. And those benchmarks are now, of course, fixed. And so that elevation difference is very, very, very different than what it was before. You guys were looking at something like 3 feet or 4 feet difference. It's 16 inches. At the very, very highest point at the edge, it's 16 inches. And then it grades, it comes back down from there, and then it is covered by pretty much, you know, mulch and what is the other sort of materials, the coping and all of that. So very, very little exposure in terms of the edge or the outside surface of the pool. It is very much a pool that is in ground. I think the other was the steps along the side of the house, the sort of block steps from the original illustration. They looked very large. Those are actually going to be in what type of stone was it? again?
It's on there, but that has changed, so now
Okay.
look,
Raffinate,
Yeah.
there we go, Raffinado,
the
thank
look
you.
is a lot softer, and one of the things we also talked about with Emily was where to place the pool equipment. So on L8, you'll see the black screening that will be built where the pool equipment will be stored, and there will be bushes in the front that will grow up, so it will all be covered. It will be placed out of view for anybody that walks on French Horn Lane. They'll not be able to see it whatsoever. And it will be painted black, so it fits into the aesthetics of the house.
Also, the pool lighting, I believe we were looking at the brightness of that in terms of how that's going to reflect for the neighborhood when someone is walking, you know, their dog or whatever on the street. One, we're gonna have, of course, elevated vegetation, which is trees that we're planting pretty much about 2 to 3 to 1 from what we're removing. We're replacing we're putting in 2 trees along the edge. And that lighting has no more than, what was it, the sort of view of it was about,
The view of the lighting?
yeah, 12 watts. And it was, I think somewhere no more than say 6 feet, you could see that lighting emanating from the pool. Also, there was a question about the coloring of the lights. There is no multicolored light sort of feature to this pool or lighting. It is one color. That's it. And that is based on the 12 watts or whatever lighting. I'm not an expert on this stuff. Our guy's in London right now, but we would love to have him on, but he's given us sort of highlights of what we were replying to.
I also want to pinpoint one of the questions about the pool. We were talking about the pool lining on the L3.1 slide. You will see a test color of what the pool will look like. This is after consultation with Emily that suggested that or reminded us that we don't live in Florida. So we chose a darker blue color, so we'll not be able to see so much if there's leaves in there, and it will match more with the nature of Western and Northern Virginia. And the pool cover is going to be gray, so it matches with the color of the house. But all of that is on the 3.1.
I think that's it.
We believe that we have submitted all the documentation that was asked in the additional 11 questions. And if you have any questions, we are right here and eager to answer them.
As best we can.
All right, thank you. Let me go around the room and see if anyone has any questions. We didn't have any affected parties on this case, or we do, but no one here, maybe? Cool. All right. Ramon, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around how everything is configured with relation to the street and the neighbor's house. And it looks like you have two HVAC compressors that are possibly visible by the street. Is there going to be any planting around those?
Yes, there
Oh,
will be,
okay.
there will be planting. We have one neighbor.
Which is that on? Is that on L6.0?
We have a neighbor on Tumbletree.
Which I think he's looking for which slide the
Is it-
actual HVAC units are.
Yeah, because your elevation shows that they're to the left of the garage.
They are to the left of
So-
the garage.
Yeah.
But then I'm not seeing them on the landscaping. I'm not seeing any plants there.
Okay,
That was my only.
so
I think-
maybe the landscape architect did not put them on the landscape drawing, so they should be on the architect's drawings.
Yeah, I see where the pool equipment pad. It appears that you've done a good job of trying to hide it with some
Yeah.
landscaping, but I don't see anything with regard to the HVAC compressors.
Yeah, the HVAC compressor units, those, I think there's gonna be 2.
Right,
Those will be sort of obscured from the rest of.
They will be located
you
right
know,
here on
view,
the
out
left
of
of
view.
the garage.
Right.
And there will be greenery bushes planted
Yes.
around it, so there will be nobody that can tumble tree. And if they turn their head to the left, they will not be able to see them.
Yeah, I just,
Okay.
I'm not
Oh.
seeing any planting.
On A101,
Mm.
that's where those units are on the architect drawing, not the landscape drawing, so you might have to go back to another,
Yeah, I see where they are. I don't see any planting.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
I
saying.
think they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, okay, so not directly in front of the unit, but more on the perimeter?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question.
Oh.
And I'm looking at the tax record, it's a single zone, so it's gonna be two zones now? Two HVAC?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. That's all I have, thanks.
Great, thank you. Heather?
Thank you. I have to apologize because I didn't get to sit in on the first presentation for your project. There's a lot of things that are lovely about the project. The questions that I have involve the massing and roof height. So Patrick, could you go to, what page is it? A202. Please. I'm wondering about the need for 3 different levels of roof, or if you could have 2 that are the same and 1 in the middle that's the same, that's uniform across. I'm wondering if there's some logical need for that, or if this could be simplified a little bit. And well, we'll start with that.
Just to answer your question, the last time, I'm not gonna turn my mic on, I hope you can hear me. It was crazy, but one of the comments that was made, if you look, well, if you're looking over there, I guess, on the proposed south elevation,
Mhm.
we were asked to make the right-hand side the same height as the left-hand side, which we did, and just from architectural point of view, to make it different, 2 sections in between is a single story, is the kitchen, the living room, and everything else, so that's why that's different. We did raise the right-hand side per your request to match the other side.
And I get that. What I'm questioning is in the very middle, right where Patrick has the cursor right now, why is there a, looks like 6 feet or so step up that's over part of the kitchen and the living room? Why is there the need for that? I'm just looking to make the whole thing a little bit simpler.
Yeah, well, part of what, after practicing for 50 years, one thing I always like to put into my projects is a little bit of movement.
Mhm.
And I think that's what that does with the stepping down. That's why it's there primarily, sort of an architectural fetish. But that's kind of, that's why it's there. If they were all the same straight horizontal lines, I don't think it would be as exciting to me anyway, from a designer point of view. That's why we did it that way.
Okay, that answers my question. What is you have 90 inches times twice, is that right, of glass on that south facade? Is there any shading or screening or anything like that that's gonna happen over the kitchen?
Not planned, no. I mean, there's
Wow.
a small forest in front of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of trees.
Poplar, old island of 7 very tall old trees, so when you walk, well, it's on the landscape drawing also on L6, you'll be able to see the shaded.
Yeah, I saw
island.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
trees.
yeah.
Okay, I question that decision, but I also noted that there are a lot of trees coming out of the front yard too, and I did not get a chance to come by today as intended, so I haven't seen the front, but if Emily's happy with the number of trees that are staying, I will be okay with that. The other question I wanted to ask about was consideration for changing the material either on the sunroom projection or on the balcony recess on the back. I like the way that the change of material has made the front a little bit more dynamic, and I would just like to see a little bit more of that as we go around so that it's not quite so monolithic. It is a tall house. It is going to feel like a tall house on your street.
We're tall people.
You're tall. That's fair, but
It is sort of down the hill. Actually, it's on a downslope.
Mhm.
So actually, it actually is shorter than the other house next to us.
Yeah, our roof line is, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 feet below the house next door.
Okay. It's still gonna feel tall when you're walking next to it.
Mhm.
So thinking about changing the materials there, I think would be a good option to consider. I'm looking at the bench with the box above it in the front. And I think I saw precedent for that in your package also. I personally think that this bit of it is too short to make that box successful. I think that having kind of a projecting roof over the bench is a little bit odd, for lack of a better word to say.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, well, it's sort of hands from Denmark, and that's something they use, put on houses over there. And one of the first things she asked when we started this project was, I want a bench.
Mhm.
And that's a copy of a bench that is frequently used next to house and front doors in Denmark. And that's why it is what it is. We're putting a very small little recessed light above it, so if you wanted to sit out there and read a book, you could. But proportionally, I think the bench is 24 inches deep, and so is the sloped overhang above it. It's 24 inches. It's not a lounging bench, it's a sitting bench that was small enough, we didn't want it to stick out too far.
I think proportionally on the front of your house, it would be more successful if it were longer. That's my comment.
Yeah.
And then the only other question that I had for you was that on the landscape lighting plan, Patrick, I'm sorry, I don't know which L number that is now, but it seemed like the lights were pretty far off the path. for pathway lights.
L7 is the lighting plan.
82.
Yeah, those blue lights are really in the landscape, not pathway
Oh,
lights.
so
Sorry.
on L7, that's the one that shows the light.
L7.0, that one.
Yeah,
That
that
one.
shows the lighting plan.
There you go.
So I'm just wondering if they're really gonna be that useful for pathway lighting if they're that far off from the landscape. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could address those lights, because I had that same question. Really, it's the ones that are not on the path. That is really like those 5 right there. Are they really necessary? Because we're already up to, I think the count was 27.
They are not necessary. If you guys don't like the 5 lights there, then they're not there.
I love it. You like them out there. What's your defense of it?
And the problem that is going to happen is that if you take out those that are around the bed perimeter, what you're gonna do is have this the whole property evenly illuminated, and then you're gonna have a giant dark void in the corner.
Well, and maybe they just need to be more on the path. I guess
Maybe
it's
they
more,
just need to be closer to the walking area.
where is that like getting?
Those are all very low little path lights, and I think because of the grade of this yard, that the only people that are ever going to see those lights are going to be the homeowners. That I think having their full yard illuminated to make the space feel bigger and have that lawn area maybe open for later in the evening, I don't think personally.
It's pretty wooded back there.
It is very dense and wooded. If you remember from our site visit, those hollies going into the neighboring property as we're looking at it, the up north side is very, very dense, and that's a low corner of the property. So I'm not worried about it for intrusiveness from the neighbors, and I do think it's going to create a nice overall glow because the pool is going to be illuminated. So at night, that would be the only dark area, and it will stick out like a sore thumb for your eye. So in my humble opinion, I do not mind those additional lights, and I actually think it would be worse off without them. Plus, from a maintenance perspective, sticking path lights in grass, we would be asking them to get rid of the small patch of lawn that they do have in the rear yard if they wanted to have those path lights around the actual pathway in the back, which will probably be illuminated by the house and its fixtures.
Yeah, I guess my argument would be that, you could do little pin lights in the stones or something that's a little bit more, I mean, we don't usually illuminate yards, right? And so that's the tricky part that I have. I know we've had that debate on this board for different projects that have been denied or approved, not with a consensus. So we obviously have a different opinion on that. That's actually one of the guidelines we're updating tonight. So like I said, I'm not going to die on a sword by it, but I just think that we don't usually recommend illuminating backyards as much as it might appear to be a nice, lighting. Once again, to me, if everyone did it, then everyone's backyards would be,
So I want to put everything on a dimmer and then just turn everything off whenever I can.
I actually just wanna pinpoint on page L 7.1, you see the outdoor lighting, and it's one of those lights where nothing will shine up, it will all shine out.
It's a very nice fixture. I like the copper. I mean, it's for brass, I guess it is, but
But again, we will put them what you recommend, so.
okay. Heather, we went with you. You had your last comment. Gazde, did you have anything?
Thank you. This is a much better, I mean, it's a huge improvement from last time we saw this. Especially the front steps that we never understood, those boxes, what that meant. So this clarifies it. Thank you for also showing where the fenced area is around the pool and all that stuff. I will agree with Heather's comment. I was thinking what was wrong about that, maybe the front seat. I think it needs to be maybe longer. Or one of the images show it boxed in, so that might actually, that sort of feels a little bit out of place, because you've got a canopy and then you've got another canopy, so that kind of feels a little odd in that sense. If you told me you're gonna remove the canopy on top, then I'd kind of be okay with that in a way, design-wise. Or if you said like, that's gonna be boxed around, all around, kind of like a feature with a different material, and then maybe the wood color recessed in, that still might work. But at the moment, it feels like very little space between a roof over another roof. So it throws me off a little bit. Everything else I like. The only comment that I'm going to insert my opinion in is, I think if you want this vertical line look, I don't agree with, I don't think CRA 8 is going to define those lines for you. Either Ward and Batten or the nickel gap is actually going to give you those lined look that you probably are more looking for from Denmark or other locations. So that's because then it will look really nice texture between the brick texture that's painted, and then you've got the vertical pieces, and then in the center you've got the horizontal wood look, so it kind of pulls together. But I think if you go with something more flat that doesn't have grooves and grooves in it, and that creates that shadow line, additional level of shadows that I think you guys are also looking for, it's just going to look like T111 siding.
Is that the same that Mike was suggesting?
Nickel gap is what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
That's my personal view on the design items. I just worry that it's gonna look like T111 kind of siding, which is also available, but it's not gonna
Reston
look.
was built on T1.
I know, my house
So
is
don't
built.
talk bad about T111. We have lots of.
My house is T111, and there's nothing wrong with that, but neighbors that are in there, they just select the Sierra 8 siding for their hardy siding, so it kind of looks similar. But I think this house calls for a little bit deeper lines and shadow, a little bit more expression. That's all I have.
Great, thank you guys there. Samantha?
And yes, thank you for the application. It's much improved from last. I really don't have much comments, with the exception of the light. I'm big fan of keep the night dark. We go home, we rest, and there were animals running around the woods, and just let them do. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily?
Thank you guys so much for the work that you've put forward. You have answered everything that I had from our initial meeting. You guys have responded to and done so with a great level of detail. I have similarly like teeny nitpicks. And it was also to do with the HVAC, not just the screening, but actually the location of them. I think it's on A202, which I neglected to write down the page number. But to me, where these are cited seems kind of odd, because there's a big blank section of wall that we could just, forgive the term, boop these over by a few feet, and then you wouldn't be looking out a window at them. And I don't think with where you are in the design process that, like, from a mechanical perspective, that would greatly interfere with the installation, but it would greatly improve the look of the house and your experience from the inside and the outside. So I would definitely recommend moving those over and providing a little bit of screening so that when you're looking out from the interior, you're not staring at an HVAC unit or listening to it. And then the same thing with the one at the garage, which is A203, is just same thing, move it to the blank wall space out of the front of a window. And you know, you've got that gorgeous sunroom that you're building. I don't think that you're gonna want to look out the windows of a sunroom at an air conditioning unit. So if you move it out of the way, tuck it up against the house a little bit more, and then just screen around it, it's gonna make the whole space, and but why? So yeah, I think if you move that over to the side of the garage, you might interact with it more when you're coming and going from the garage, but not from inside your beautiful sunroom, where you're just now staring at the outside of an HVAC unit. So I would definitely recommend moving those and screening them, whether that's a mechanical screen, like a fence, or vegetative screen. I don't.
It's easy to knock over.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's, again, we are in nitpicky land. You guys have said that you're gonna have them on a concrete slab, which is fine, but you could also just do gravel around them, which is a little bit more permeable. And
would you suggest we do the same kind of screening as we did around the pool equipment?
It depends on your maintenance tolerance, to be honest, because plants that survive well around air conditioning units are going to be more limited than ones that can, you know, be in the general landscape. So you could do both. You could do the fencing and then put planting in front of it, which is probably what I would recommend. Just make sure with your HVAC contractor that you've got the right clearances. Then the one, like, teeny note is for the pool lights. You guys have selected the first one that's on the sheet is the daylight white nicheless light, which is I think it's our 5,000 Kelvin, and I don't remember which planet. I think it was 84. I think it was page 84. But I would just recommend that we swap that out with the warm white. It will match with your landscape lights better. It will match with the exterior better. And again, I think it was just the wrong one was circled on the call out sheet. But it is page 84. So just go with the one that is like same 100-foot cord, like the warm white variety. It'll just be better for the rest of the pool in the yard. And then last but certainly not least, I just want to address at some point, you guys need to think about the fact that, and it's shown on your engineering plan, which is on page 112, but your infiltration trench that you have in the deep backwoods there is going to, in the process of construction, I mean, they're showing the tree removal, but right now you've got that in a quite dense wood. And I have a theory that when you go to submit these to the county and they do a soils test, that they're going to say that they can't put that there. So I would just be prepared to have that infiltration trench.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's at the county now. We actually had the soil test done. Yeah. And the water tables there.
Okay. I mean, it is supposed to be, just a little observation well and you don't really see it. But I'm just concerned with our pretreatment sumps and like you've got it cutting directly through the landscape and into the woods. There are some larger trees in there that we're hoping to preserve and we'll have tree preservation around, but that's just an area of concern because that observation trench will need to be maintained to manage your stormwater. And I think it should be shown on your landscape plan. So just tell Shane to put the HVAC units and the infiltration trench on the site plan for the landscaping. So it's very apparent, like that one cohesive master plan that actually shows everything is very helpful. And like you can see here, there's 2 air conditioning units on this one, but I'd love to see where the third one's gonna go and how we're gonna.
I have a feeling that, we definitely talked before this, and fortunately, we weren't allowed to have him through some speakerphone or through FaceTime here. But there was an update to the filtration of the original, the first run with the filtration. We had adapted that to not interfere with so much vegetation and to try and preserve the native trees. But okay, I thought it was on there, but I guess.
Yeah, that's just in general so that you guys have the overall plan and showing the HVAC. But that, I applaud you guys. You took the very long list of notes that I had and got it all addressed. So thank you for that. And then no more from me.
Thanks, Emily. Brian?
I'd like to second I appreciate the improvements that were made in this application. A lot of some of the big moves that we asked for, and sort of breaking up that center volume, I think is a great improvement to the plan. So thank you for that. I have to echo Heather's comments almost exactly. I was still looking for hopefully like another location or something like that could help break up the mass of it a little bit. And you've got it on the front elevation, but I thought the exact same thing Heather did. I wonder if that Four Seasons sunroom or Four Season room where it projects out from like the main box with the dark siding, could that be an opportunity to bring in some more wood or some like lighter, warmer siding or elements on there just to kind of help, you step down, you step out. I think it could be an interesting possibility.
Are you saying like on sort of like adding some more of the teak?
So we go to slide 20, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you use like the same, just a thought, like if the same thing you've got on the front,
Yeah.
that same siding material, like could it go on the back? So the top right rendering, that Four Season room that projects out.
Sunroom is almost 85% glass.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure just adding a different material back, different colored material back there is gonna do. You're not gonna get the bang for a buck that I think you're thinking. Plus, I mean, conceptually, we started with an all black building.
Mhm.
And I think personally, I'd like to keep that with Dan. And we're responding to some of your concerns, considerations by recoloring the front and so on and so forth. I think it would add 200 square feet of a different color there. I'm not sure be a strong enough sign element to make the change first.
I do think it would be a lot of stubby pieces of that siding. Like if you go to the rear, like the thickest piece you have is probably, I don't know, 18 inches on the corner. And so I worry that for that material, unless that material was vertical, like if it was vertical, then it would probably make sense. But that one's the horizontal material.
Yeah.
I worry that it's gonna create two, I don't know, awkward pieces.
If I might interject, I do think.
On the rear, we've got that gutter design. I've sent you the pictures of there. And if all of a sudden that element isn't black, then you're gonna have different colored gutters. I don't think it's not gonna look right. It's gonna look cheap.
If I may interject, I actually think I agree with you guys about breaking up the materials on the back there, but I think an area to do it where it doesn't impact the house, but it would makes sense to go with that material is the decking, the second story decking and railing, the posts that are coming down, and then the decking that's like on that first floor. That little touch of warmth is natural to switch materials there because it's not part of the house. And it would just, those two spots, I think would bring in warmth on the back.
Is that decking the same teak material?
It can be, and the fascia board can be not gray.
Oh, here it is. It's
Yeah.
Timber Tech composite. That's the Timber Tech natural white
Up
oak.
in the
Yeah.
left-hand corner, all the decking is gonna be that blonde color.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that might answer your concerns.
You just make the railing posts and the fascia board on the deck and all of
Deck
that.
right outside the sunroom,
Well,
outside the master bedroom, be that lighter color.
it seems like in the one rendering it is that. That's what it's proposed to be. Slide 20. It looks like you guys have that as like kind of a light,
Right.
a lighter railing already.
Yeah.
Right, but the posts are shown as white and the fascia board is still shown as gray, as is the underside. So if you made that ceiling not white, if that was a warm color, I think if you added the step risers, the side of the deck, if you just made that whole thing in a warm tone.
Makes sense, 'cause the same idea coming on the front, underneath the overhang that comes out the front would be light wood underneath. the
Yeah.
front.
It has to be consistent. Any sort of overhangs
Yeah.
or under, that would
The ceilings in both those areas, like underneath that roof area and in the porch underneath, I think that's.
I think that would have a really nice impact. Yeah, and
Yeah.
to soften that corner, it's a good place where you're breaking the plane. So yeah, I think that was gonna be my next thought too. So, or my next possible location. So yeah, thank you for that, Emily. I think that would be really helpful. Oh, sorry. I figured it was. Sorry. Let's see. A couple of, again, nitpicky questions on there. Please remind me that you're gonna paint the brick? Okay, so because you've got to mix an old and new, so you're gonna paint it. And is the midnight black color, is it gonna be basically the same as the siding? I think I saw it way back, like a,
Bare midnight black.
and is it,
37.
I don't know if you have this sheet, but that's the color.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
so is it a pretty close match to the siding? Like, are they meant to,
Yeah.
they're meant to match? Okay,
Did.
okay.
Very.
So then I think that highlights the, looking for these other opportunities to warm it up, I think would be great. I want to come back to Gazde and Heather's, sorry.
No, you're good. I was.
Bench comment?
Oh, it's right there. Yeah, the bench comment, because I do kind of worry about the two elements. You've got the overhang of the bench, and then you've got the canopy, which I did wonder if, I was kind of questioning, is it out of place? Is it too high to be effective? I'm wondering if you all would consider like taking the overhang of the bench, like maybe it goes all the way across the front door. I guess in this suggestion, possibly remove the metal canopy that's there. And the bench canopy overhang gets a little more, maybe gets deeper, and it definitely gets longer, and it slams all the way over possibly to the, I'll call it the right volume on the south elevation. I think it might be worth looking at.
But I think that would hit the door.
No, the door had to. So, do you wanna continue? And then
Yeah.
we can come back to the bench?
Yeah, I guess I'm suggesting it right where, yeah, and that image on the left, like possibly, do we lose the metal canopy? Do we accentuate the overhang of the bench, like the upper part of the bench? Yeah, that guy. Does it?
So,
Okay, time out.
Okay, on the center on the right is a picture of one of these actual benches. It's
Yeah.
not that large of a design element. Sticks out a couple of feet. It's just something they help have next to their canopy, and it sticks out 2 feet. This is sort of a nice pleasant little element. And then the canopy sticks out the width over the. Sticks out over all of the end. Let's call that, where the front door is, that's the entry side. That's the entrance is a nice, and you get the kitchen, it goes up to like 12.5. So the canopy, black canopy, which we'll have to put underneath, sorry, I remember it didn't show.
Oh, that's good, okay.
But it goes the entire width of the entry segment. And then so the bench goes from the side light of the front door over to the edge of that. But making it longer, I think just kind of confuses the elevation, because then all of a sudden, everything now lines up horizontally, and if you carry the bench over, because it's really sort of a minor element. It is. I mean, we're getting this much attention for it. Here to the client here. I think that's sort of a whole composite little element there. The canopy is about 7 feet wide, but it's out 5 to 6 feet. The little bench underneath it only sticks out 2 feet. And it's the same siding color, same size, everything. But if you look at the photograph of the exact real thing, 400. On A400. The picture of it, and it really is not that big of an element. It's just sort of a friendly little architectural fetish next to the front door.
What is that? What is the material on the back of the bench? I mean,
Same as the side.
I like the bench. I don't have particularly too much care on the size one way or the other. To me, it's almost
It's a T.
I have a suggestion. Why not take, because it seems like you have two covers. You have the metal roof and then you have the little roof above the bench. Why not take that little roof and make it vertical, connect the bench with the metal roof? Does that make sense? Because it's kind of useless right now. If you flip it vertical, then you're kind of encapsulating the bench. And then you take it all the way up to the metal roof. Now you have, right, so instead of have it here, so you have the bench here, you have a small little roof. Just take it over and then bring it up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, to the side of the window, if that makes sense.
How about if we make the cap, the roof of the bench match the extended overhang we have at the end? So they're both round.
Or we could just get rid of the cap. Not the metal cap,
No,
the bench cap. That.
I think you leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
And I only say that because we're not gonna sit here and design it for you. And I think if we have 8 people cooking in the kitchen, there's gonna be a lot of stepping on the toes. And I think we have a proposal before us and I think we should just, whether in my opinion, I don't think it's going to materially impact the vote one way or the other. It's just my opinion. I think there is clarification that it is the same siding material on the back wall of this bench. So really, when you're looking at this thing, it's really gonna just disappear. And that's, I think, the intent of the design. And I think here graphically, it shows like it's a little bit more because there's this giant tan square in the back, but really, that's just the same siding that's going horizontally across the back. So I think it's really gonna disappear. Norm's the one who has to execute it. It's gonna be a fun one to execute. But that's
You got it.
that's ultimately what I'm, seeing it, so to me, it's gonna disappear. So I would just leave it. You have it on here, so I would just leave it. Cause I think we all could debate it for an hour.
Well, that's true, but I think we're trying to, I like that it's projecting out, like it's giving some like projection to the facade there. I think some of us are worried that it's kind of duplicative with the metal canopy. And so we're just trying to kind of clean up, possibly if that's the right word, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but like that little area, so.
Way to recess it ever so. I know there's obviously like the house wall there and there's like a little closet on the inside, but like if we pushed it in a little bit so it wasn't competing with the overhang as much, would that potentially solve?
Like if it was a true nook versus.
Yeah, if it didn't stick out, if it actually looked like it went into the house a little bit, so that instead of it being a 2-foot overhang, it's like from the house, it would only be a foot. You just spitballing here. I like the bench, but I do see your guys' point, but I think if it's not a big.
I think if you look at our sheet A400 again, picture of it up there. The, as you're saying, the back of this bench is the same siding that's going across that whole part of the thing. All we're doing is adding this little roof thing, little bench thing, stuck on the face of the house. That's all it is. I appreciate the discussion, but I'm not sure it's such a glaring element that needs this much.
Especially once it's
It's a very
landscaped.
minor. I mean, that whole centerpiece is now all this. Yeah,
actually, like, I don't know how much people are really gonna see of it, because there's trees, there's an island in front of it. They're doing some other things. A lot of trees.
The intent that the wood that you've got on that center volume, is that gonna be the same tone as the garage door? Is there gonna be like a,
They're close.
okay, I think,
A little bit redder. But this, I mean, you never know with this wood stuff. It's
yeah,
gonna match. I mean, the idea is the garage door and the front door are gonna be just a little shade different than all the siding and the bench, so. Just so they stand out.
okay, I think as long as they're close, so it's harmonious, because it's, so instead of like having, you know, this wood here and that wood there, what will be nice to kind of just tie it all together, so that was just my thought there, so just a suggestion to, yeah, match those up as closely as same family, perfect. Okay, so we talked about that. Will we see any brick on that front elevation on the, I'll call it the left side at the garage? Does the siding go all the way down to grade? Will we see any brick
No.
there at the base?
No.
No. Okay, and I guess that's gonna get a little bit covered by the planters, which I appreciate very much. Thank you for pointing those out. I like that that's gonna have a little bit of buffer there. How tall are those planters there, just out of curiosity?
On the side of the garage.
Yeah, along that front facade as you're walking to the front door, are they 18 inches high? Are they low? Are they?
There are gonna be three of them. The one in the middle is gonna be a little lower just for interest, but no more than,
They're about this high, right?
Yeah.
About that.
Oh, great. So about
Cordon steel.
12 to 18 inches or so.
It's gonna be
I'm
rusty.
I'm a big fan of cotton steel, just like you too, so however I can get it in there, but yeah, you will be visually be able to see them, then there'll be plants in them, of course, to soften it up, but you'll be able to see the cotton steel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, those were all my questions and discussion.
Mike B?
So I want to talk about the bench of one. So just kidding. I had a question for you. If you could go to slide 85, Patrick. Just a real quick one. There was a note on here with regard to the fence layout. Adjacent to the driveway and the garage entrance, we've got the gate matching split rail style, et cetera, to there. I'm assuming there's an intention to have a second gate on the other side where it adjoins the house. It's not called out on here. I may have missed it in another bit of the drawing package. My assumption would be we're looking for a second gate.
Yes.
Okay. I would say when you go final, let's make sure we include the second gate in there so that we catch that.
It's actually the corner of the house as you come down the front walkway.
It made total sense to be there. My assumption was that we were doing it. I just want to make sure we're calling it out. The only other thing I had for you, because you included the detail literally from the standard with regard to the split rail style, all the good stuff. Were you intending to do a wire mesh or just the split rail and let it be?
Gonna do like they do on the other houses in the neighborhood. There should be a picture of the fence. Oh, I don't have it, but it should be on. Okay. But.
If you go down a little bit, Patrick, it's like the bottom
So
part.
whatever the name is for that fence, just not that one,
No.
we talk, yeah,
There
that
you
one, there
Yeah,
you
there
go.
it is.
Yeah. That's what they have on the other houses in the
Right, and
neighborhood.
the wire mesh.
Go ahead. You were gonna ask the question.
Well, technically, because you have the auto cover, you
We
don't
don't need
need the meshing.
Yeah.
However,
We would like.
this is a aside, but if you ever leave the pool open, check with your homeowner's insurance. Just,
We have see already.
Yeah, that's all.
The mesh would be better to have.
And that was
Dogs and things running them.
just because you obviously lifted that from the standard, which is great. Thank you for the inclusion. I just wanted to ask, it says may include wire mesh. Were we going to include it? Sounds like we are.
Yeah.
Mike B's good. Thank you.
All right, cool.
Unless we want to talk about.
No. I do, what color is the pool cover? Is that just black?
Great.
It's gray?
In there, yeah.
It's charcoal gray, I couldn't tell. So the only thing that I had question wise, I appreciate updates. Thank you. I think ultimately, I do think the middle part is successful for breaking up the boxes. I didn't realize that I mean, I don't know if maybe I asked for it and I didn't realize it, but with the second box, now the boxes are the same height. I think it's still successful. I think they was probably successful the other way as well, now that we break it up. And maybe now that it is broken up, I realize that the other height would have been okay as well.
What if we make it taller?
Then zoning will get mad at you. But the rear sunroom, in my opinion, still, I appreciate the one windows. It's not, once again, I'm not gonna die over it. I still wish that we didn't end up with these little stubby siding pieces in between windows. That just, to me, is, not ideal. But at the end of the day, it's, you did combine the one windows, and so that at least is helpful. I know I've clarified a couple things. I do think Gosday's point about the siding is valid. And, obviously, if I had my way, it's not my money, the nickel gap is going to look drastically better. However, I do know economically is a way different cost. So I'm not going to push it because, it's the difference of probably, 5 times potentially the difference in cost. So that's all, and Norm, can bat me overhead later, but that ultimately, so I don't want to push for it because I don't want to make the project financially a burden. And I know that's not the responsibility of this board, but I know I've ran into it recently and it's an expensive product. So as successful as I do think it would be, that's ultimately up to you guys. I think if we leave the vertical as kind of an open-ended material, I think as long as you use a vertical hardy product, I'm okay with it. Because of that. I don't like the lights in the grass. I may die over. So I personally don't like the lights in the grass. I get maybe why you have them there. I don't agree with them. That's just me. I think it's against our standards. So that's ultimately what we're here to look at. So does anyone have any other questions, comments? Ramon?
Yeah, sorry, this is a lot to digest and I wasn't here for the first review. And Heather made a comment that kind of opened my eyes on something. So I'm looking at the elevations. And on the backside of the home, you're nearly 30 feet. And I see that your parapets walls are pretty high. And then if you go to M1 and you see the rendering of the home against the photo, I feel like that's a bit out of scale. I don't know, I feel like it's gonna be a really tall building. And I see some of your parapet walls that are quite high. So if you think about sitting at your swimming pool, you're gonna be sitting against a 30-foot wall. I mean, it's quite high. And I just think it's pretty high. And I'm wondering if there's a way to, why are those parapets so high? Did you just match it with the front volume? Because when I'm looking at the building section, it appears that that's what you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, they're high, so we set the roof higher at the front side and get enough slope by the time it gets to the rear. It's right water basically.
So you matched the two?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a question of inches. It's just,
well, if
we
you,
raised it up to about 3 feet to respond to the comments we got
yeah,
back in May.
I just think it's gonna end up looking much larger than it shows here in this rendering. That's my only concern. If that makes sense, I don't know.
I'm trying to find what height we had back in,
If you add it all up, it's
May.
27 plus feet, and that's just to the floor.
No,
That's
it's
not
like 20, it's like 3 feet higher, like Richard just said. So, I mean, it was 23 and a half on that right side. Because I think the left side, to me, it is what it is. It's a 2-story section of the house. I don't think, the grade is up there. I think it's up the hill. Like they said, their neighbor is, well uphill from them, on that side of, I don't even know, is that considered tumble tree there? The only benefit I would say is that they don't have any really neighbors anywhere near them in this vicinity. If they're on a corner there, so, I mean, looking back, once again, if it was me who said to make the boxes the same height, I don't know if it was me or if it was somebody else. I do think maybe it was more successful potentially with now that it's broken up, having the shorter height. I know you guys had talked about maybe trying to raise the ceiling height or whatever. I don't know if you guys ended up doing that or not, but I don't know if that helps it, but you know, I see what you're saying, Ramon, and that's what I was pointing out, that I think it grew, and I think we asked maybe for that height because there was no kind of defined bridge, let's call it, that was connecting these two. Now there's that defined bridge, and now is that other box too tall? You know?
I think the way people are gonna.
Potentially.
This house, I don't think it's gonna feel that way.
Yeah.
I think it's because it does sort of gracefully fall down a hill, it's gonna be landscaped heavily. And I think it's up at the user scale. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. When you come out the back, there's a swimming pool, a forest behind it. I just don't think it's gonna be a problem. That's just my feeling.
I just also want to pinpoint that the house right across from us on Tumbletree is taller. Not the one that's next to us, but the one that's right across from us, so
It is.
we are,
Not French horn, you mean
no,
Tumbletree?
on Tumbletree,
Okay.
so directly across from us.
The one that was recently renovated.
Likely moving behind your hips.
Nice. Any other questions, comments? All right, I guess we can have some discussion.
I have one
Oh,
more, sorry,
okay.
this is, I am sure just an oversight, but on our response letter, we mentioned the word spillway for the spa. And I just want to ensure, it does look like that on the plan. The spa is set in the pool. It's all the same elevation. It's not raised up. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Yeah, on page 6. One contiguous thing. That makes sense with the auto cover, but on page 6, it just said the spa spillway. And usually that means you have different elevations. So I just wanted to make sure. And then I would say, to sort of address a little bit of the concerns about the height of the back of the building, where you guys are going to have those planters and those plantings that are on the back of the house. Right now, Shane's has planned to have inkberry in there. They'd be like 4-ish feet tall when they're fully grown. If you wanted to swap them out with something that has a little bit more verticality, it'll actually help bring the experience of that massing down to scale. I'm not going to say it's a necessity, but if you wanted to have it feel a little bit less tall, putting where you have those planters and then the plantings that you put into them will drastically help the experience of the kind of stagger stepping of the massing. All right, that's it.
All right, cool. All right, so we've had some multiple thoughts, comments, opinions. Anybody have any other thing to say? Comments? Motion? Talk about the bench a little more.
See, that's.
I got that one for you. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Gonna happen.
Can we break it up a little perhaps so that we can check off some big items and then if there's anything left for discussion?
Volunteer.
Well, because I mean, if it's me, I have my nitpick list, but I want to make sure that I'm covering everybody else's concerns as well.
I think you could, I mean, if you want to take a stab at a motion, I don't think we necessarily need to split up the application. I would just prefer to make any amendments that you want to make, just list them, and then we can take them or leave them.
Property things, sitting there right now, empty, gutted, and it costs a lot of money, so I would hope that we can have some.
So I would make a motion to approve the application as submitted with the following caveats. One, that the HVAC, the air conditioning units be relocated to better suit the architecture of the home and to be properly screened with either fencing, planting, or both. I would like the pool light to be specified as a warm white, not a daylight white. That the decking on the rear of the property be all materials in a warmer wood tone to help highlight and break up the back of the home. So that would include the flooring, the railing, the fascia, and any kind of railing posts and stair risers. I would also like to add that we would like the fence gates to be shown on the plans with, and specify that it will be wire mesh on the split rail. And also to show the HVAC with the screening and the infiltration trench on the plans. Lastly, that we would like I guess this is a caveat, to consider the nickel gap as the recommended vertical siding for the house. I think I've captured everything. That is my current motion.
I will second it. However, I want to clarify, to me, the railing thing you put, I think the posts are proposed to be this black railing, which I think it's on page, I don't know, M2 of the handout. I mean, it's like a black cable rail that then I think they're gonna have like a cocktail,
21.
like a cocktail topper on it based on the images. And I know the images kind of show it to be white or maybe stainless steel in the actual rendering. But you guys could maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it looks better at being the black railing with the cocktail like matching topper, which I think is what the intent of that.
Yes.
Because I don't even think you can't get like a 2-inch cable rail out of the teak material.
You can do anything.
Wow.
But yes, so amendment accepted that the rail posts will be black and that the cocktail rail will match the decking.
But you're suggesting like that fascia board for that balcony as an example.
Yes.
You want that to be in the teak
Yes,
or the weathered
in
oak.
the timber tech, yeah.
Timber tech weathered oak-ish fascia, yeah. Then,
Ceilings.
and then the ceiling soffits as well. For the balcony only. Correct?
Actually, I would say for both the.
Oh, yeah, the deck gets the deck boards.
Yes.
That's already on the plans, but we're just basically saying, take that same product and turn it on the roof. So on the underside of this.
Underside of this roof, but also I think
The
in the,
second.
yes, both ceilings to be out of the warmer.
Yeah. Just to be clear for staff, what we're suggesting.
I will accept both of those amendments.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further clarification? Discussion?
The lights in the yard, the 5 lights, are they gonna be moved closer to the walkway to be more in line with our guidelines, or are we gonna leave that one?
I would like to see them either just go away or be relocated.
I think a happy
Or be
compromise.
integrated into the stone. They make these little well lights.
I know, I think the comment of a dark space was valid. Why can't they just be moved closer to the walkway?
Or get rid of
They are very movable. They are,
I mean, I think that would be more in line with the guidelines, like you said. I agree with you, but getting rid of them, now you have a dark space. If you just get them closer to the walkway, it's more in line with the architecture and.
It's also nice to illuminate your pool equipment in case you need to do any work on it when it's not.
I can wear a headlamp.
Oh.
So anyways, okay, so I unfortunately remember did not make the motion. So Emily has to accept said amendment because she made the motion. And I guess.
I will perhaps add the caveat that as with everything, the lighting may be inspected post-installation, and if we find it to be egregious, we could ask that those be moved or removed, those 5 lights around the pathway, post-installation. Is that acceptable?
That's fair.
All right. Then I will make that amendment.
Pause here for a point of order. And wait for the.
Fine, I can accept that. Mike B, what do you,
Nope.
you want to add anything?
I do not. I was just waiting to see if the gentleman who seconded it was going to accept
Yeah.
it as well. That was all.
So there's a motion, there's a second, there was some further discussion. I'll take a vote. I'll just do a roll call vote. So Emily, do you vote yay or nay?
Yay.
All right, Samantha,
Yes.
Heather, Ramon,
Yes.
Gazde, Brian,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So motion passes 6-2 to 0. Thank you. Good luck.
Question, if I could.
Yeah.
The provisions that you're asking, what do we do with those? Do we just make those and send them to staff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more, they'll be part of the motion, so just make sure they're incorporated into your final construction documents to be executed in the field, and then why is her name? Linda, when Linda comes out to inspect, she will be looking for those things. Okay? Great.
Linda well.
I do know Linda. She's great. Love Linda. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Do you want to
Yes,
take
yes, let's do a 5-minute recess to go to the banyo or
I go break.
the kitchen.
Does that need to be an official motion?
Oh, does it need to be an official motion? Okay. Tony was looking at me like I was.
I was gonna say.
design guidelines. Cam, LaShonda, it is your show. Take it away.
So design guidelines, our favorite conversation topic. We are almost there, almost there. Many of you who were on the design review board when we were talking about design guidelines last year, we went to the Reston Association Board of Directors and we presented about 23 different guidelines. And that was in June of 2025. The board approved many of them, but they had comments on several that are now returning back to you. As a kind of like add-on to the process, there are about 56 design guidelines currently in the works for revisions. Everything except for the ones that you see tonight in your package have already been reviewed by the DRB, so those will not come back unless there are changes. Those were not presented to the board, so the board has not technically discussed them at length. They have seen them, but they've not discussed them at length. So tonight we were coming back with several revisions to the design guidelines, incorporating the board's feedback for you all to consider. The process for design guidelines is essentially that we have a public hearing. The DRB discusses and provides the design guideline revisions that are being proposed to move forward to the board for their consideration and adoption, or any changes will come back to the design review board, or any recommendations for changes will come back to the design review board, and we'll start the process over again. I'm hopeful that we will not have to do that this time. So in the package tonight, we are talking about lighting decorative for cluster condos and single families. We're talking about lighting for security condos, shed storage boxes for single family, signs for cluster and single family. And then one of the things that came as a result of our conversation with the board was really relative to string lights. That was one of the things that we were recommending proposed changes to the design guidelines for, to address string lights that are being popping up everywhere. And this is not just necessarily a Reston thing. This is across the Commonwealth, across the county. There are lots of lighting concerns. And so one of the things that staff did when we took back the feedback was we decided that it would be important to separate out the design guidelines for lighting from string lights to design guidelines for lighting for decorative purposes, and just separate the two. They're really not related. They're really not related, but they are somewhat connected to one another. And so we did want to make sure that we gave you all the opportunity to comment on the new guidelines that we are proposing for the string lights. And in addition to that, there were some comments at the joint DRB and board meeting on May 14th relative to the play equipment for clusters and the play equipment for single family. And so we have attempted to tackle some of those things in the design guidelines for this evening. So what I would probably suggest is talking about pulling out any of the design guidelines that we really want to discuss, or if you'd like staff to go through the recommended changes for each one, we're happy to do that. But you'll kind of see some consistency from, for example, lighting decorative, cluster condo, single family. They're basically the same iterations of one another with some minor changes or nuances to them depending on the type of home. As you go through the design guidelines, I would look at it from the lens that one, our design guidelines are generally not prescriptive in terms of what is and what is not allowed. Two, the design guidelines don't say you can't do X. What it says is if you do X, there's no application. If you do Y, there's a consultation or a panel level decision. And then anything beyond Y, so Z, would require a higher level of review. So as you look through the lens of these, as you look at the design guidelines, look through the lens of making sure that you confident in how the association and how the design guidelines are applied to certain situations. And then also think about, we're looking at this from the lens that A lot of people aren't aware that when we talk about design guidelines, we of course want all members to follow the design guidelines. We want them to comply with all the things that Reston Association has, and we have a lot of things. However, it's important to note that when we were writing these changes, one of the things that we do have to keep in mind is Reston Association is limited in terms of our enforcement action. We are not proactive, so I can't walk down the street and say there's a faded shutter, or there's something that's broken that shouldn't be broken. There has to be a trigger for Reston Association to do any type of enforcement. So unless one of the 4 things that I'm going to go over happens, there is no technical formal enforcement from Reston Association. So one would be a complaint. So one member has filed another complaint against another member. That could be, I live in South Reston and I'm walking around in North Reston and I see something that might be a violation. I can file a complaint to Reston Association for that. 2 would be a walkthrough, which means a cluster has requested that the staff come and inspect every single house to check for compliance with maintenance or design items. 3 would be a post-design review inspection. So Linda would come back out to the property to ensure that the decision that was provided to the applicant was followed. And then the last one would be a resale. So a homeowner is selling their home and has requested that Reston Association check the property for compliance and design matters. If one of those 4 things doesn't happen, there is no technical enforcement teeth in terms of the things that we can do. We can do some other things. We can send some courtesy notices and things of that nature, but we are limited in that aspect. And so when you look at the design guidelines that have been proposed tonight, look at it from that lens as well as we go through, because often what we hear is that there are concerns related to projects that are happening or modifications that are happening. And those come and are escalated in the sense of a complaint, or someone is selling their house and now needs to either get approval or to adjudicate some sort of enforcement matter that is against them from the formal perspective. So I'm happy to go through each one, or I'm happy to kind of, if there are no comments on any of the ones that are here, I'm happy to do whatever the chair would like.
I personally don't need you to go through any like line item by line item. It's just my opinion, but if someone has any specific questions on which, I know we've had some hot topics with some of the lighting situations. I think we've given input, we've debated it, we've looked at it, I think Cam's pointing out that enforcement is one, like he said, is only one of 4 ways. And so we have to think about that kind of when we set some of these kind of updates and standards, and that even though we may set it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, I don't know, the final say, let's put it that way. So anyways, does anyone have any questions specifically about any of the updates before I jump into any of my questions?
I had one question on shed and storage boxes. Patrick, can you go to slide 45? Just because it looks like you're intending to add some images, example images, but at least they didn't come across on mine.
Yeah,
So, I'm
that
curious
good
about that.
catch. So you could probably see in our proposed revisions, we have added some color and some pop to the design guidelines. One of the things that we saw and some of the feedback that we received was the images that are currently in the design guidelines are very antiquated, they're very dated. And so our intent is to revise those dated images with newer versions of them, but they will be the same. So as you've seen in the design guideline for sheds and storage boxes, there is, or actually not this shed and storage boxes, for the play equipment. We updated the design. It's the same image, it just looks more modern. And that's our intent. So we made a note to update the image, and we don't intend to, unless the design review board would like us to return with the images, the intent is to have the image be the same, just modern.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because I think the images that you've added are excellent, like in terms of being more modern and easier to read and stuff like that. So yeah, I think these are a fantastic update. So I think you all did a fantastic job. And I like how you've added those things to make it clear on like the lighting. I like how you've broken up the string lights versus decorative lights, but you've given number of lights, you've given color temperature, you've given wattage requirements, things like that, that I think the board and homeowners have been asking for to give you all a better way to inspect it. So I think this is a great addition.
I have technical questions, not about the content. Do you want those?
I'd want anything you're ready to give.
Do you want to go first, Emily?
Sure. I have a couple of things, and I'm actually going to skip way over lighting because we're, and I know we're going to dig into that. There were a couple of things. Page 40, staff. I understand that this is the no application required, and that the footprint here says 36 square feet. I did like that there was like a limit on the footprint of the play structure. And my suggestion would maybe be to add that on the ones that we have for an application, or for neighbor's signature, because that was the only one that gave any kind of size limit on there. Next up in that general vein is on page 41, and I have comments on a PDF that I can just send to you guys if that's easier. But for permanent foundations and site modification locations, it does say play structures requiring permanent foundations or significant site modifications, including concrete footings, piers, pilings, retaining walls, or substantial grading. I think we should set, because a lot of the time playgrounds are going to have like at least 6 inches, like those edging details, and like have the raised play edging, to define what we mean by a retaining wall and what it is. Like if there's like a height, like if you could say, okay, anything under a foot of raised up area, if it's 2 timbers that we've stacked on top of each other, they either don't need an application or something like that. But defining if there's a parameter of like certain height or certain styles that don't require edging, because you need at least 6 inches of wood surfacing for play, for safety, for fall impact when they eventually careen off of a slide or a swing or something like that. Yes. So I would just say if we had like, maybe we say, you know, if it's a retaining wall that's less than a foot, it doesn't need any kind of application, or it could be reviewed by staff, something of a height.
So we contemplated that,
Mhm.
and our reference point was the landscaping design guidelines, which do address edging as less than 12 inches, I believe. So we can make a footnote in the comment section at the bottom of this that would address that specific thing.
I think that would do the trick there. I've also had whoops on the no new images. Oh, and on that note of talking about the this little detail here, the permanent foundations and site modifications, I think you should copy and paste this exact thing and put it in the sheds, because there's something that hasn't been talked about is there's a very, like, people can build sheds and storage structures that are permanent, that have foundations that are, you know, concrete in there, and then they can just buy a shed from Costco and stick it on a gravel pad, and the difficulty of removal and the cost implications are a lot different. So I saw that was here in the play structures, and I think we should replicate it in the language for the sheds of like what is permanent and what's not, because a little, you know, aluminum box is not to me the same as like someone building a equipment barn. And then this is on lighting, and it's just on at one point in the lighting, and I don't know which page it's on, I'm so sorry. There's just a discrepancy, because on a bunch of the pages, when we're talking about the time usage, it says that we can and we will require that the lights be off by 11 p.m. And then on one of the pages, it just says that we might require them to turn the lights off by 11 p.m. And to me, I was like, why are they different? And maybe there's an explanation for that, but there was a very descriptive thing, and then there was a very like,
Yes, that is intentional. And the reason was when we started talking about separating out the design guidelines from decorative lighting, from string lights lighting, one of the things that we wanted to try to recognize is that there are going to be occasions when landscape lights are not going to be something that can be turned on and off. And that's why we said may or can when it relates to landscape lights. Because what we did, for those of you, for everyone, what we did with landscape lights is that we essentially took out the no application for any directed light. The no application is 100% solely for lighting that is shielded and is mushroom style lighting. And when we started going through the design guidelines and talking about the timing aspect of it, we felt like there would not necessarily be a requirement, or we should not require ground landscape lights to be on some sort of timer. And the way that we did the design guideline and writing it, we recognize that there are going to be opportunities for lights or down lights that can be on controlled timers, which is why there's that difference in terms of requiring up lights or anything that's not in the ground that is not directing light. So it's a landscape light that is mushroom capped, would be able to have that stipulation or that language associated with it in terms of shall or may.
I hear you, but all the landscape lighting has to go into a transformer, and that transformer has to go into an outlet, and somewhere in between those two plugs, you can always put a timer. So I would say, like, there's no reason that it can't be on, that any of these lights can't be on a timer. So I think if you're gonna say may for one, that you should say may for the other, or if we should say, we will require that they be turned off at a certain time.
But I think his point is that, like, I know in my own house, my pathway lights stay on all night because I may come home at 2 a.m. I may come home at 3 a.m. And if I don't have my lights on because I had to turn them off at 11, I mean, it's pretty big. I mean, to me, those are like, I think that it's important to have it on string lights, important to have like all these other general lighting ideas. But to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's why you're referencing specifically those type of lights that are pathway finding for your, safety when you get home late at night, or even if it's just winter, 7 o'clock at night on a winter is, well, I guess that's not past the time limit.
Lock in the winter.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
This one says up lights and down lights, if it's whatever page I'm on, page 10. Page 10 says up lights, I would be fine if it just said path lights don't have to be on a timer. You could leave because they're dark skies or whatever, but this is up lights and down lights may have to be extinguished by 11 p.m. And then on every other chunk, it says they will be required to be extinguished by 11.
And I think that's because what we did is when we looked at what was out there in the market, what the DRB has previously approved, and because we're separating out no application versus staff and consultation, we're giving ourselves the opportunity and the flexibility to put that stipulation in there. Because what can happen in those particular situations is there may be up lights or down lights that are so minor in detail that they don't need to be turned off, right? And so can we add that built-in flexibility to the membership without being and saying shall? Because then if there is a complaint, the complaint will be founded on whether or not they turned them off or not, right? And so building that flexibility in the design guideline gives you all an opportunity to put the stipulation in when you feel like the stipulation is required, depending on the intensity or the color, or depending on the total amount of lumens on the property, as an example. We thought about trying to go those routes and trying to limit the number of fixtures and trying to limit the number of lumens on a property in total. These design guidelines, unfortunately, for single family homes cover almost 4,000 homes that are, as I'm sure Ramon could tell you, vastly different across the board. And then for almost 12,000 clusters that are either single family or attached homes, and the lot sizes vary drastically. And so we felt like narrowing it down to lumens was the right source, because most light fixtures that you could get on Amazon or Walmart or Home Depot, they're going to cite the lumen count. And then, of course, limiting the warm color temperature to the 27,3000 2700, 3000 Kelvin lights. So I do think that it is important to have that differential built into the design guideline.
Fair. Also, very well done, by the way. I know this took a lot of work and really great job. I don't feel like nitpicking. One tiny little item that I should note, I know we said mushroom style lights, but just because we have more modern style homes, I just want to bring it up, of like the L-shaped half lights. They accomplish the exact same thing of like pointing light down directionally. They're just not the mushroom style. So if we could show one of these slightly more modern half lights, I don't think that would be a bad
I like that.
Sure.
I love that.
Yeah. Because on some applications, those mushroom lights look.
So then the other part about the lighting is if, I mean, the landscape lighting is any dark sky light fixture that is certified dark sky. I mean, it doesn't have to be mushroom or L shape or something, you know, if somebody comes up with a stick that actually somehow directs the light to the ground and doesn't look, you know, needs to be dark sky listed. So are we okay with that? At that point? If it's not listed then.
I would be.
As long as it's under the 30 inches, the whatever the height that we have.
In dark sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not fussy about what it's like.
Yeah, that'd be probably. Because
People might come up with some pretty interesting.
So pretty,
lines.
but.
I'm just warning you.
That's
Not that they, you know, but yeah, I agree. I think if it's dark sky compliant and it's less than our max height, then I think it can qualify as a quote unquote mushroom or pathway light. And I think that's the key is it's a pathway light.
Correct. And we did try to pull that out in terms of talking about lighting. We want to make sure that the intention is to light walking surfaces, not necessarily
lawns.
Correct.
Walking a lawn.
So anyways, yeah, I think we could amend that. Or is it too late to amend language or are you gonna?
No. We are happy to incorporate the changes and that are being proposed and discussed as long as at the end we have a motion to move forward as amended.
Okay, well, I think that's a good one to do.
Are we done with lighting or?
We can jump around. Yeah, we're just doing popcorn here, so you go.
Boxing, I feel like there is a. So we're saying, you don't need an application. If it is 100 square feet now, which is like 10 by 10, could be whatever, but about that, pretty big size, and it's kind of like a room. 8 foot tall. And then we go on and say, the application form with 3 of your neighbors, is okay. Hold on, let me see, with my trainers. Okay, so first we say, review process, no application is necessary if it's 100 square feet and located where we're telling you that it's located. The second tier is the application form, 3 neighbors, signatures needed, again, 100 square feet, no greater than 100 square feet. Then we go on and say, application form obtained 3 signatures, staff consultation, and the panel or full, you know, whatever. So the third tier, we say, the size of the shed storage box must be appropriate for the size of the area where it is to be located. So I have a problem with that sentence because like, I mean, this 10 by 10 starts to become an affordable dwelling unit in a way, like it's going to that direction. We may be okay with that, I don't know. But any size and shape that is, we are going to determine that, but what is the cutoff at that point? Because in one panel, Emily and Samantha, I'm just picking some people, right? They may be okay with 15 by 15 because the lot is big and it's 20-foot setbacks are done. You know, then all of a sudden this thing is becoming 50 by 15 and we get approval for that. But in another meeting where I'm not involved and I don't know that they have approved this, we may just say, this is too large. I'm definitely gonna say it's too large. If that comes across to me, that's a lot. So could we put a cap maybe, you know, like it should be no bigger than 120 square or.
You all can most certainly come up with a metric that you'd like to frame out for the membership. The problem is by doing that, you are in essence prohibiting anything that's larger than that. And the reason why is because this is specifically for single family detached, right? So I could have a lot that is on York Mills Lane, right? Where a 10 by 10 foot shed might work, right? I could have one that's 12 by 10 that might work. But if I go to maybe South Reston off of Lawyers Road, where the lots are 25,000 square feet, it might make more sense to have a 15 by 20 shed, which has happened and has been approved by the DRB. So when we look at proposing guideline changes, we look at what the DRB has approved. And unfortunately, if you start to narrow in and prohibit or determine a predetermined metric, you are not able to prove something that's not that, right? For any lot. And when we started to go down the road of like, well, maybe we should base it on the square footage of the lot because larger lots would have more appropriate, it started to get a little icky. And so you can do that, most certainly. I probably would not recommend that. I think that the DRB, I think the DRB should be thinking when they're reviewing guidelines, using the information that staff is providing in terms of comparable approvals the DRB has made to basically encourage or discourage the recommended motion that is being provided to you all, and use those previous approvals as a way to move the project in the direction of being more acceptable or have a reference point. And quite honestly, if a shed is very large, let the member work for presenting to you as to why it would be appropriate to have that there, as opposed to trying to narrow down what is the max measurement size. Because once you do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then also people will see the max. Some people might see the max size and be like, oh, I can put a 10 by 25. Let's go. And that's what they're going to propose from right off the bat, just because they see the max, because I want the biggest, you know, I mean, that's pretty common. Well, and one point I was going to say is, you know, there is a max. I was just Googling to confirm before I said it. If you go above 256 square feet, you need a building permit. So like at that point, to me, it's not a shed. At that point, it's a garage. And so even that is pretty big for a shed, but you know, I could see where maybe that, you know, kicks in, you know, we don't have, you know, what's a shed versus can a shed have a garage door on it?
Well, I was gonna say our gazebos and our additions and alterations also have no max sizes on them. So they could put a gazebo and stuff in it and call it their storage shed. So like, I think if we would have to change one, we'd have to start changing them all. And mostly to some point, I was gonna ask that same thing. I'm like, so at what point do we kick it into garage and detached unit versus it's just a shed? So.
And also the point of these revisions is to give more flexibility for no application or a lower level review, so that it does capture those smaller things that don't need the DRB's oversight. I think Heather had some more technical.
Oh yeah, Heather, go for it.
Okay, so I can't tell you all the page numbers because I separated out just the part that is red line accepted versions. So if you start from that. I'm a little bit confused about how some of the guidelines are written. For example, in the middle of the decorative lights cluster section, which is page 3 of that section, there is one phrase that then says you are installing low voltage in ground or above ground landscape lights, yada, yada, yada. The language of that is not clear to me. Like, what does that mean? Are you just telling the homeowner they are doing it? I don't understand. I don't understand what that means. If you are.
Yeah.
Is there an if that's missing, or is there but what's the if? Because this is in the guidelines. this is not in the if, but that's not where it is.
So the way that we are taking the design guideline, and if you look at I think the red line, U is the language of the design guideline uses throughout all of them. So as an example, lighting in condominium, it says you are replacing the original DRB approved condominium standard. So it's giving direction in terms of that. So we are referring to at this level, right? So at the staff consultation or panel level, if you are doing this, you are installing low voltage in ground or above ground landscape lights, either shielded or directable, that are focused towards the house, up lighting or down lighting, and directed downward to the ground, pathway, landscape feature, or other area. And so it's basically following a sequence of all of these things are happening. This is what we're prescribing. If you would feel more comfortable with if, we can add the if, but the guidelines are written that way pretty exclusively.
But I don't see the then. Like, I don't see in this particular, and I get where I understand how they're written when you're trying to figure out, do I need an application? Do I not need an application? Does it go to you? Does it go to them? I see that. This is in the middle of a section of actual guidelines. Fixtures shall be spaced and directed to avoid continuous perimeter lighting, runway-like effects, glare, or spillover. Next paragraph, you are installing low voltage, ends with and. The design number and mounting functions of deck lights shall be chosen to enhance. There's no then.
The then it starts at the beginning. So the then is if you do these things, then the review level is this consultation or the panel level. It's under that
Okay.
section.
I still think it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I will believe you that it's just a.
So if you read on the second page, for
Uh-huh.
other projects, you must complete an application form and obtain a cluster board officer and 2 neighbor signatures. Your application will be reviewed by staff in consultation with the DRB member or by a panel of the DRB who will apply the following guidelines. So that's the then, right? And so the if is, if you're following these things, then it requires a staff in consultation or a panel level review. So that's your then.
Okay, so I get that.
Okay.
The 3 bullet points above that are not if then.
Yeah.
They are different.
In terms of landscape lights, the DRB fixture shall.
Landscape lighting should be integrated into the natural environment. Like, they're specifically giving instruction to the homeowner. It's not an if you are, then you must. They're saying, these are the guys, and this is what we refer to when we're sitting on a panel and looking at it. So, yeah. I don't know. It happens throughout the lighting section that we go to this if you then, but I don't understand what the then is. It feels like those sentences are out of place to me.
Like that fourth bullet syntax is quite.
Right, like it doesn't belong in that, it's not a guideline. It's a,
You could rewrite it as fixture shall be low voltage
Yes.
in ground or above ground
Yes.
landscape lights. Right. Right, you just,
Yeah.
yes,
but that's, yeah.
Sure.
but I don't know if that's the intent of what Michael just said.
It's on page 8, guys, in the package. I just found it, sorry, I was digging through that.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect, but I think that actually is helpful.
Yeah, the language is not connected, to what you're telling me, and then all of a sudden I'm installing some low voltage. Okay, I'm not, so I just skip that.
Right, it makes it, yeah, you get it.
Sure.
Okay, next one. So that happens a couple times. And then if you keep scrolling down to decorative lights cluster, page 5 of that decorative lights cluster section.
What's the?
I can't tell you because
She made a Word document first.
I separated that part of the PDF because I had to look at them
No.
side by side.
Wait,
Which, by the way, staff, is a great tool for us to have, is the ability to look at stuff like that side by side instead of in one long document.
Sure.
Okay, so under lakefront properties, lighting on lakefront properties has, that's picky. the potential. And then under incandescent lights, I think it's great that we believe that incandescent lights generally produce softer or less glaring light. Should we somehow address LED lights because that's what people are doing?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So as a reminder, this is why we included the red line version so that you all could see what the guideline currently says.
Yeah.
So we're not changing that already exists.
Yeah.
So recommending addressing comments related to LED is a great one, and we're happy to do that. But we are being mindful of trying to stick to the things that we are trying to take action on and not necessarily fluff
So
up.
for the next time, can we jump
Got
out of
it.
the box?
No, I do like the suggestion though, because you are correct, yeah.
Okay.
And that would be in all sections.
That would be at all those places too. And then I'm scrolling way down now. LED listed and or preferred, different properties, okay.
Not expressly.
You are installing again happens. Incandescent light again happens, and then I promised there was another one. I don't know why that one's there. Incandescent lights. It has to do with the play equipment and the bullet that Emily was talking about earlier was confusing to me because I feel again like there should be a then after it.
Single family detached or playground?
Single family detached play equipment, Forts houses, page 2. This bullet gets repeated several times. Play structures requiring permanent foundations or significant site modifications, including concrete footings, piers, pilings, retaining walls, or substantial grading. What is it about? Like, is that another case of when we're trying to say you need to have these reviewed? Because it doesn't, it's out of context with the other bullets around it, the way that they're written. So I'm looking for a then or, yeah, it's just out of.
It's on page 40 from what I'm looking at.
Yep.
Yes.
Play equipment, single family detached forts and houses.
Yes.
Yep. And it's gonna be that way for both of them.
Yeah.
And then the RB member is misspelled there.
I just was about to say there's a typo.
What? Did I miss one?
Yeah, if you scroll down. Down.
On page 40 at the very bottom,
Member.
it says member. I was not gonna point that out. I just saw it just a second ago.
And that's the members.
The members.
Yeah, so that's just another, I don't know what we're trying to say about those play structures.
I think what we're saying is that you have to get a neighbor signature. You have to have an application. You have to apply for it. If it has that.
It belongs elsewhere then, that's all.
Well, I think it's saying like for right above that, right? It's kind of on 2 pages, but it's basically saying if your play structure requires a permanent foundation, you need to get neighbor signatures and it needs to come to
DRB
the staff
member.
consultation with the DRB member or member by a panel.
But read
is what I'm
the few
understanding,
things
correct?
in front of the 2 top bullet points on that page. The size of the structure should be appropriate for residential setting and proportion, design, color, material. It's
Those are
out of,
not answering the who that is being put forth in
Right.
in the sentence beforehand. It's
right, it's,
who will apply the following guidelines?
Right.
these are the guidelines, but that's not a guideline. That's all.
That's a conditional statement.
Yes, thank you,
Thing.
conditional statement. That's what I was looking for earlier.
They're,
that's-
they're kind of blended
makes sense.
syntax,
Yeah.
which I understand. I'm with you.
So I just happy to make those changes, but I think all of the guidelines are written that way. And so we're trying to frame and change the syntax or the conditional statements in the guidelines. We're gonna have to do that for all of them. So you're gonna see this repetitive theme in a lot of sections when we start talking about, well, hopefully we're not talking about guidelines again for a little while. But noted the conditional statements, and if you do want to see that framed out a little bit better so that there's more clarity to the membership or to whoever's interpreting it, which is what I'm sensing is the
I think it would be really helpful, and I'm not asking that we go through the entire book
Yeah.
today or tomorrow even, but as we go through them, if we catch these things that seem out of
Yeah.
sequence, it makes sense to correct that.
Sure,
To
absolutely.
clarify. Okay, I'm finished. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it. I mean, a lot, it was.
That was easier than I thought it was gonna be.
It was like a lot of the same thing, so you'll find it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
On that, sorry, I forgot, on that note, just talking about formatting, if in general, and I know as we're making these revisions, it's almost impossible, but like, once we get to a happy place, if we could make sure, and I know it might take up more paper technically, but like, if we could keep the brackets of this, and then if it has to move on to the next page, if we could put like, this continued, because sometimes when you're scrolling through them and it's like we were just talking about, the conditions were on the previous page. And then there's the conditions where if we just bumped that down and had a new header, it's kind of hard to sift through on occasion when you're reviewing them.
Perfect recommendation, and we can do that because each guideline is its own document.
Yeah, just give them their whole own pages and their whole own like sections. Yeah, just group them, the technical term, like even like the comments, like, you know, I'm looking at the page 41, right? You have lakefront properties, you have a cute little drawing, and then you start on comments and it sits there, and then it goes on to the next page, and it's just tree houses are just sad and all they're lonesome, and I just want to fix it. Okay, that's all.
I actually think it's sad we don't allow tree houses, but that's just my opinion. Anyone else have any other comments? Ramon?
I have the same situation as you. I don't know what page number I'm on, but I can tell you on the red line form, it's the third shed storage box page on the red line form. And it says neighbor notification. In some cases, wider notification may be required to all lots in which the proposed shed may be visible. It seems a bit vague because why is it so? Who's going to determine those cases? And is that after the application comes in, then we have to figure out, you know, what neighboring properties can see or may see the proposed shed? I don't know. I think it's just a little vague. If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And we started off thinking about, in some cases, wider notification may be required to all lots in which the proposed property has an adjacent or a congruent line. And then we realized that there may be properties in which they can still see the shed, but they don't share a property line with the shed. And so staff does take a more proactive approach that if we know that there's going to be, so first, the DRB's, the deed provides the DRB the authority to require wider notification at its preferences in terms of if they think that there are going to be impacts to other lots. But staff does take a proactive approach in trying to obtain wider notification when we know that there's going to be an issue. What we have experienced is that there are sometimes situations where there are probably 3 lots in a row. The middle lot is the one who's submitting the application. They won't get the neighbor on the right, but they will get the neighbor on the left. And then they'll get a neighbor across the street. So technically they met the notice requirements, but really the neighbor on the
Jason.
correct. And so we wanted to build in that language into the design guideline so that staff had an opportunity to reference that the DRB may require it, because otherwise it's hidden in the deed.
So what you're saying is when the application comes in, there's a trigger for staff to actually investigate which adjacent properties could potentially be impacted.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
What if you changed all to additional lots from which the proposed shed might be visible?
Sure, yeah,
Because
that actually works.
That doesn't guarantee you're gonna get them all.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point. And then the next one regarding sheds that I wanted to echo Emily's comment. I think that the language about permanent structure applies to like playgrounds, but not sheds. I think that the language about permanent structures should also apply to sheds. I just think that that would be important.
Sure, permanent foundation for sheds, not a problem.
Yeah, and then if you go down to the signs, you'll notice that it's very specific about non-illuminating signs. And I just wanted to make you aware that, when you get to the real estate signs, this is what I do. Realtors are putting temporary lighting on their signs, and I think that that would go against our guidelines for political signs. So if you can't put illumination on a political sign, then you shouldn't be able to do it on a real estate sign. So what some realtors are doing is they're getting like the the solar powered temporary, and they're just putting it in the grass on either side that shines up on the sign. So I would recommend restricting that for real estate signs.
Sure,
Does that make sense?
it does make sense, yep.
So overall, no no lighting on the signage?
I personally, it helps
Yeah.
us as realtors.
Unless
but-
Ramon is selling the property.
But
there's sign.
exactly, but if
No
if
lights.
we're saying, no, but if you look at, it says non-illuminated
What are the certain signs?
signs for political signs, and all the other signs have to be non-illuminated, then we either take that out or
Yeah.
we're consistent.
Yeah, I just.
So what,
Said it's like the 45 days of like decorative lighting, and it can't, like, that a real estate sign can't exceed being up for 45 days. I mean,
Yeah, but
sometimes
that's-
They do, but.
they're up much longer than that, sometimes depending on the situation.
What if they don't sell, then what if?
Yeah, sometimes a house is on the market for 4 or 5, 6 months because it's overpriced. So I don't know, I
No,
just
it
think
it makes sense to
it
add,
should be consistent with the other signage.
and you're not saying no lights on real estate signs, you're saying no lights on real estate signs at the no application level.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Well, who's gonna apply for there?
Yeah, so hold on a second. Well, let me take that back. My question to you is, all the other signage is non-illuminated. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so then we either take that out and allow people to put lights on it, or we add it to all signage, which includes real estate signs.
Why can't we just have political signs, election signs be different than real estate signs? I don't have a problem with someone uplighting their real estate sign in the winter
Oh.
when but.
Again, keep in mind, we're not creating a path for people to do something. You're creating and reducing the amount or the need for an application to be submitted for things that general members are going to want to request. I don't think that I've ever heard anyone wanting to light their sign, and if they did it and no one complained about it.
Right.
So Reston Association didn't know about it. I don't think that we should problem solve those types of things that are occurring.
That makes sense. And you're right, nobody's gonna apply for
But
real
if
estate.
someone complains, there's a guideline in place that addresses the requirements.
Right.
Okay. So then I guess we're good. Again, I just wanted to be consistent.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Any restriction on if a real estate sign is like, real estate signs may be illuminated, see decorative lighting. Requirements. Cause I just imagine it was like, wow.
Not
It
every,
can be illuminated, they just have to apply to con level or some level, some vacant application, that's all.
No, right now we're saying that they don't have to apply for a real estate sign.
not many realtors do it, but
Yeah.
I'm starting to see it more often, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I personally don't do it.
Oh, do you
Where they
see-
put lights?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if we just said like. Again, just placing a restriction on saying like, hey, you don't say that we can't light real estate signs, and you don't say that I can't put a bat signal in the middle of someone's yard for a week or two.
It does say any associated lighting must be reviewed and approved by the DRB.
Yeah. I think it is covered.
Say that, yeah.
So,
It's on that extra page.
See, it's on a new page and it doesn't exist, it's on a different
Yes, yes.
You got it.
Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what we determine either political or election or real estate, but there's obviously other signage that exists. What, we don't have any guidelines pertaining to contractor signs or tech signs for that matter.
You do, so
Which, where-
small signs.
That would
is
just
the-
be the small sign section?
Correct. And it would be the sign does not exceed 1 square foot in area and is non-illuminated. Would qualify under the no application. So that's generally gonna be your,
Where does it say small? Oh, small signs is its own.
it's its own category at the top, at the very beginning.
Oh,
They're huge. They're much bigger.
So you'd have to apply.
Mine is little. Mine's a little circle. Mine's less than a square foot. I'm good. I'm compliant. I have a couple up in Reston. I'm good. So we're good. Yeah. I'll-
So, but
I'll-
would that fall under temporary sign?
Yeah. it
Which is no larger than 2 by 3 feet?
Correct. So there's 2 sections
Right.
that would allow no application.
I see. I guess it's just, why do we have definitions bolded then? Because maybe that's throwing me off.
We wanted to make sure we pulled out, so this is something new that came from the board. Definitions part was something that was requested specifically. We wanted to make sure that it was highlighted. So it doesn't need to be bolded if it's.
I guess that's what confused me, because it's like, I lost that, I thought we were under small signs, and then we were talking about specifically political, election, real estate. But now I get that there's, small signs is another category
Correct.
of signs. Okay.
Sure, we can make that, we can fix that.
All right, anything else? So what do you need from us, Cam? You need a motion to amend all that we talked about? Or what do we, how do we?
So there's 2 things that we can do. We can request that you do a motion as amended to move forward to the board for their consideration at their August 27th meeting. We can have this be brought back, either sent to you all through email or sent and on the agenda for the August meeting. I will tell you right now, the August meeting and the September meeting are quite large meetings with appeals. So it's your preference if you'd like us to bring back what you all discussed. But I think that staff is confident that we can address the things that you all have provided to us in those changes, and then of course still send it to you all. That's not a problem. And then if there's any questions or anything from there, we'll make any adjustments that need to be made. But moving it forward to the August 27th meeting would be, as amended, would be our desire.
Yeah, so let's do that, and then I have a question. I'll make a motion to approve the design guideline updates with the amendments that we talked about, that staff has a good solid record of. And that will be distributed to us for review. Motion second.
And to forward the same to the board.
And forward the same to the board. Yeah.
Maybe.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? All right, motion passes. How do we already have appeals in September? Are we limiting the number of appeals? We don't have many cases to appeal. Are we limiting? Oh, okay, all right, I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. We'll